Obviously, we haven't seen them, but now we can. College Football Playoff Top 25 brought to you by AT&T 5G. And look at San Jose State. The Spartans of Brent Brennan, who is a hot coaching commodity there in the Mountain West Championship game against Boise, and ranked for the first time. Tulsa's in the American Championship game. They are at number 23, and Colorado hangs on after losing for the first time this season, falling at the hands of Utah. Let's look at 20 through 16 now. And Iowa has wrapped up the schedule at 6-2, not going to be able to play Michigan this week. Miami falls 8 spots. What do you think, Joey, as you look at Louisiana? Louisiana's only losses to Coastal Carolina. They've beaten Iowa State. Iowa State might be up at 6 this week. What do you think about where the Raging Cajuns are ranked?
I think they have a chance of being higher, but quite honestly, I think we've almost forgotten about that win against Iowa State to open up the season. I think in that first week, so much talk, but Iowa State has had so much success. Now getting into that top 10, we've sort of forgotten what Louisiana has done. They're sitting at 9-1, having a terrific season, and could be one of those teams that's screaming, we deserve more respect.
If there was a lower spot to drop Miami to after that poor performance against North Carolina Saturday, the Hurricanes might have plummeted even more. Let's continue up the rankings and look at 11 through 15. North Carolina jumps up a couple of spots. Northwestern, who will play for the Big Ten Championship against Ohio State, only lost a bad one against a poor Michigan State team. And SC's only up a couple of spots, Jesse. What do you make of that?
Yeah, there's SC, and when the first rankings came out, they were number 18, and guys, we know it's just really hard to climb the rankings when you don't play and beat ranked teams. The Trojans have gotten no help from their counterparts inside the Pac-12. Everybody's losing, and as a result, it's just really hard to envision beating a 3-2 Oregon team that didn't even win the Pac-12 North. Hard to envision the Trojans cracking the top 4 for the playoff. The Pac-12's playoff hopes are done.
Even with Colorado's loss, and in the year in which you're changing the rules, they should just let USC and Colorado play for the Pac-12 championship. They're the ones with the best records that are able to play, with Washington being unable to go. It'll be USC against Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Or Indiana, I should say, is at number 11, still a quality win for Ohio State. The Buckeyes have a chance to get another one against Northwestern in the Big Ten championship game. Okay, let's look at the top 10 now. And sitting at number 10 is Oklahoma. David, is there a shot for the Sooners if they beat Iowa State and maybe get a little help with some upsets to somehow sneak back into the field again?
So you're saying there's a chance? Maybe? Mary Swanson's? I mean, long shot, but if you're watching Oklahoma, you should like what you're seeing. Definitely on the defensive side of the football, better than they've been in years past.
One spot ahead of the Sooners, who now moved up one spot. Cincinnati, I tell you what, Cincinnati needs to get back on the field. They've dropped a couple of spots the last couple of weeks. I'm not really sure that I love this right now. Kirk, what do you think?
Well, you're right. They're a brand that's a bit forgotten. They haven't had a chance to play, and it's affected them as far as the momentum. They had some great momentum going about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. Hopefully they'll get a chance to play this weekend and make a statement.
You guys know me. I'm not one to jump on the committee. I know that different people, different years. You talk about consistency, and when you have that many people, you're going to find some discrepancies. Cincinnati keeps dropping when they don't play. Other teams don't. Let's see who's at number 8. Cincinnati will have a chance in the American Championship game. And Georgia, despite losing its 2 most important games this year, committee loves the Bulldogs. I mean, that's certainly in Alabama's favor. It might give Alabama some leeway in the SEC Championship game, since the Crimson Tide handled the Bulldogs with ease in the regular season. And Florida also beat Georgia. Let's look at number 7, just ahead of Georgia. At 7 is Florida. Now, that was a terrible loss against LSU. Did you think the Gators would fall farther, Joey?
I absolutely did. And Reese, this entire time once we got into that top 10, I kept thinking, where the heck is Florida? Florida's sitting at number 7. They still got a shot at this thing. I assumed with losing to a 3-5 LSU team that had looked terrible, lost by 1,000,000 points to Alabama, beating Florida, I thought Florida would be much lower than this. But sitting at 7, they knock off Alabama, we got a discussion on Sunday.
All right, so we have Florida at number 7. Kirk, I thought they would fall a little bit farther, too. I did think that the floor for them had to be one spot above Georgia, which is where they are right now. I've said about Ohio State leading up to this that you can't give them everything. Same holds true for Florida. Just because they played more games, you can't lose a game like that and still be in contention for the playoff spot, even if you win the SEC, can you?
Well, I think it's how they lost that game, right? I think it was a home game and a game. It's college football. It's emotions. They looked at the film. They thought LSU would just walk in there. LSU had opt-outs. They had everything going against them. And to be candid, I think Florida just kind of, I don't want to say they just showed up, but the way the game went and the way they have looked in recent weeks, that was not the Florida team we've seen. They must be peeking ahead to Atlanta and start thinking about getting ready for Alabama. They'll be a very different team Saturday, obviously, when they play Bama, but there should be a penalty to me. I'm surprised that they only dropped one spot to number 7. And as Joey said, they're still, if there's if they win and, I don't know if winning is enough. That would be a great discussion tonight. Is winning enough now that we know they're at 7? Would that be enough? If they would have beaten LSU, Jesse, it would be a given. Now, I don't know, but dropping one spot, I think a lot of people are scratching their heads.
Well, if they beat number 1 Alabama in the SEC title game, it becomes an interesting discussion simply because an SEC champion has never been left out of the college football playoff in 6 years. Of course, a 2-loss team has never been let in. So really interesting. If they could, the way the Gators defense is played, it doesn't look like they're capable of beating Bama. They'll certainly have to show up and be ready to go much more than they were this past weekend, that's for sure.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.